Who wants to live forever? Forever is our today. Who waits forever anyway? Welcome to episode 460 of an Unearthly podcast, streaming live on the 13th of September 2022 and featuring Absolution, written by Scott Allen Woodard, and starring Paul McGann as the Doctor, India Fisher as Charlie Pollard, and Conrad Westmis as Kariz. I am Bill Sylvia, the one in black. With me are our color commentator Alex Fireheart
I only learned today how Karis was spelled.
and technical director Mad Matt Winchell.
I have raced from work, threw a quick snack, and started set up immediately.
Mm.
It's been a
Co-host Rand
it's been an interesting day.
uh, co-host Randy Ronson McCulloch is still on medical leave, and hopefully things are going well.
Yeah, as
Mm.
far as I'm aware, he's at least active slightly.
Mm.
He's also apparently lost I forget how many pounds. I want to say he's almost lost already 100 pounds being there.
Oh.
That's through them medicating him and getting all that water
I was
weight
gonna say
off of him.
I was gonna say as long as it's through the medication working and not through lack of nutrition or anything.
Yeah, it's the
But-
medication's working, and apparently he's already shed quite a few pounds.
Mhm.
I know he's able enough to at least be semi-active regularly, and he's been watching a few movies that he's missed out on. Gets bored otherwise when it's repeats or shows he's not interested in, and he has not shared any interest as of yet to rejoin the usually Wednesday night group of ghost hunting games. So I'm not surprised he's not here yet, but I do know he has been spending most of his boredom time playing Conan Exiles and joining in on one of 3 servers we have going in with the group right now. We're on 2 public ones, and we have 1 private one. So, it's been keeping busy.
So speaking of keeping busy, my week feels like it's just been in a flash. I've been putting a lot of energy into teaching and my coursework. So I seem to be doing well. My students are responding well, so I guess I'm doing a decent job at teaching. I've also been preparing we're basically auditing the structure of the organization of the nonprofit I work with. So we've kind of been doing interviews with people about what their opinions are, and then it's my job to organize analyzing all that data and coming out and saying, okay, based on all the people we've talked to, here's what the suggestion is. So I've just been busy. It was about 3 hours before this podcast when I was like, shoot, I haven't had time to listen to the story yet, and I turned it on.
Yeah,
So
I hopped on to listen to the story really quick, like about
right.
2 hours. I finished like 2 hours before I had to be ready and head off to work, which I had to walk today because everyone else was gone and out of the house.
So I'm hoping that things slow down a little for me. If not, they will slow down by this time in October. Which, I mean, a month would be a long time for it to not slow down. So hopefully I can breathe before then.
It's been also really hectic at my work, especially Saturday. What was it now? 15 minutes in, I've been constantly asked about particular food items that contain potato. And come to find out, we were running out, if not next to just completely out of potato in our kitchen. 15 minutes after that, got asked to go get pizza. I went to go get pizza because no one else could find it. Found it at the bottom of one of the first two stacks of boxes of pizzas that should have been put away, but weren't. Only to have the first stack then fall over right in front of the door, so I had to pick them all up in order to even get out of the
That's
freezer.
always annoying.
And then that made my hacking cough even worse. And my frog in my throat. And then, I want to say about an hour and a half after that, the safe gave up the ghost. Our, I guess you'd call him now a shift leader, came in, tried to fix it twice, only for it to jam again repeatedly, and then completely give up the ghost. Literally, it went from yellow light to red light, and just basically went, "Yeah, I'm dead. Bye."
Ah.
So we had to string together money as best we could to try and put enough into my register so that it would hopefully last the night, and we barely managed it.
Mm-hmm.
And that
I
was our
just realized
Saturday. That was hectic, needlessly so.
I just realized bad news on my schedule. I'm showing my class 2 movies this semester, but the first one's not for 5 weeks, so it's not going to help me relax until until later.
Mm.
Trying to think if there's anything else. No, so I was just kind of like, well, what the hell do I expect on Sunday? Show up Sunday, and they're like, oh, we didn't know. And it's like, the morning must have been fantastically happy, though. Because they had to clean up yesterday's morning mess, as well as all the BS of everything that needed to get fixed.
Mm-hmm.
Because they had a technician that came in, like, roughly 4:15 in the morning to come fix the safe.
Oh, actually, this would be relevant here. So, I think I mentioned I was considering doing some like music reactions. I tested it out with OBS, and I realized that my webcam, because it's the one built into the computer and is only 30 frames per second. Every time I speak or every time I like talk with my hands, you just see a big motion blur on the screen, which I'm guessing doesn't bother people too much during Zoom calls. But that would be really bad for YouTube. So I talked to somebody else because I'm in a server for someone who runs a reaction channel that's been growing, and his advice based on what he does is basically record the video of myself with my phone and then sync it up with the OBS footage later. So I might give that a
I
try.
hate that option, but and if you can't find a way to make your webcam work with it, then yeah, that's your only option.
Yeah, it's either that or buy a more expensive webcam, which I can't do at the moment anyway.
Yeah. So it's just not going to happen, at least not at the moment.
Right.
Yeah, I'm lucky I have this little 420 thing that I can actually tweak slightly so that it actually does get a decent frame rate.
I know Alex mentioned having some news.
Oh, right. Well, I guess that's the whole. I'm actually able to get a PS5. That's basically most of what's happened this week.
Which I mean that is rare news in today's.
Yeah. Like, yeah, again, it is so funny to me that I was going to the website for something else entirely and just happened to catch that there was that they were taking orders for one, like for a batch that'll come out in 2 weeks. So I was like, well, I have the money. I don't have much money now, but I do get paid today.
And it's safe to say it because you live in the middle of nowhere, Australia. So who's gonna come rob you?
Yeah. But yeah, it's just like, it's funny, like occasionally seeing the odd person walk out of the local EB games with one and just being like, like I both want one, but also like, again, like some of the time recently it just been more I was focused on saving up for the PC. So there was a string of a couple of months where there'd be the odd like thing of it, but I would have either missed it or I was just like, you know what? Fuck it. I've got to prioritize saving up for this damn PC.
Computers first. Computers are more useful.
Yeah, so it's just like, and also I just realized, oh, if I do that, then it's gonna take forever to save up for this damn PC. So
by the time you save up for it, it'll be obsolete already.
Like by the time of course, it's funny because I've got that, and now I've basically decided that I'm getting rid of my day one Switch, and I'm getting the Pokemon OLED one that they're putting out, and I have an OLED Switch already. because I got the Splatoon 3 one. Because that one came out like a couple of weeks ago now, I think, like 2 weeks ago, I forget. And I was like, well, I don't want 3 Switches, because what the hell am I going to need 3 Switches for?
Well, you might have 2 friends.
But I decided,
no, you
that's
might need those controllers.
Actually, you only use if you're playing like a multiplayer game, you only use 1 Joy-Con per person, right?
Yeah,
I think so. It might actually be like split it up. Split.
Yeah.
You don't need
until
all
one
that
of the
many.
Joy-Cons gets drift.
Yeah.
That's like having that your one friend that third-party controller, and they're just like, shit.
Yeah.
Here we go again.
Or buy a GameCube controller.
Because the one issue that I'll probably run into is that I don't know if any of the Joy-Con I have, outside of the ones that came with the new Switch I got, will be good enough to give away with it. Because essentially what I was going to do was like, if I trade in my old one towards the Pokemon OLED Switch, I could get like a discount essentially. But I would have to give Joy-Con with it because you need Joy-Con to set up the console. So it's like, oh crap. So either I'm going to have to go out of my way to buy a brand new set and then just chuck it in with those and be like, fuck it, why not? Or just ask them, is it okay to? But then you'll just have to make them buy new ones as well. Because I feel like a pre-owned Switch would be cheaper anyway. And especially if it's not coming with Joy-Con, but you'd have to make it pretty clear. You're going to have to buy Joy-Con as well. So, I'll probably ask them before then, and then just be like, the only ones I've got have like are kind of iffy, so I don't know if it would be, either that or I just tell them ahead of time. It's like, these are probably a bit screwy, so if you can fix them, then that'd be good. Because apparently
I turn off motion
refurbish
controls when I get the choice, so the drift wouldn't hit me.
Well, that's just it. It's the stick that drifts.
Oh.
Yeah. You're misunderstanding what the drift is there, Bill.
Oh, okay. Because I knew people playing some of the games that required motion controls were complaining about drift with the motion controls. I thought that was the issue.
No, it's drift with the joysticks.
Yeah.
The joysticks are still like super dodgy, and it's been out how many years? Yeah.
And it's not like joysticks are a new thing on controllers either, so that there's no real excuse for that.
How sad is it to feel like the only one that's not making issues out of their systems right now is Xbox? After they got slapped down by the PlayStation 4, they apparently learned the lesson. They actually haven't been in any regular heat lately.
Yep. They just, as far as I'm aware, don't have any good exclusives.
They've been buying them.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing.
True.
They've been buying them. They haven't come out yet, but they've been buying them. They're getting ready.
All right, I guess we've been chatting enough, so we should go on to tonight's tonight's singular show. So we've got birthdays and news, a little bit of birthdays, a bit more news. I don't think we have any geek talk.
Not that I saw.
We've got our episode summary, which I think is going to fall to me. And then our episode review, final thoughts, and ratings. All right. So starting with our birthdays, we have in September 9th, we've got a few. Julie Sawalha, that might be mispronounced, I'm not entirely sure, who played Emma, the companion of the Curse of Fatal Death Doctors, turned 54. Also from the Curse of Fatal Death, Hugh Grant turned 62. I think he was the 10th Doctor in that, but I couldn't find anything that actually listed the numbers. Remember. It just described their appearances, which doesn't really help me. And
No.
also Janet Fielding, who played Tegan Jovenka from 1981 to 1984, and then again in 2022, turned 69. Really? No one? Okay.
I fought the urge. I fought it.
I paused for someone.
Nah. I already did
And
that
then,
joke today, actually, in fact.
and then today, Max J. Rosenberg, the producer of the two, or one of the producers of the two Aru Doctor Who movies, would have been 108, but died in 2004 at 89.
Yes, a producer from Hammer Films.
No.
Oh, wait. No, that's
Aru.
right. It wasn't Hammer. It was whatever the production house was.
Yeah.
That's right. I keep forgetting that they borrowed Hammer actors. They weren't actually Hammer.
Literally every time these movies come up, you're like, Hammer? Not Hammer.
No, not Hammer. Dang it, I keep doing that.
So happy birthday, Julia, Hugh, Janet, and Max. Moving on to our news. In an interview, I can't speak today. Apparently, maybe I've just been
Oh yeah,
talking
my
too much all
dyslexia
day.
has been terrible today. I kept like reverse saying numbers all day at work today. I'm like, I just need to go home.
In an interview with Queer Epiphany, Yasmin Finney revealed a small bit of information about her character Rose from the 60th anniversary special. According to Finney, the character is called Rose. She's another trans icon, a 15-year-old trans girl with a great supportive family. Envision Heartstopper, which is the name of her other recent show, but fighting aliens. So for those of us who don't watch Heartstopper, which I'm guessing is the three of us, that tells us that she's playing a 15-year-old. For those who do watch the show, that might give a bit more information.
That's a from me.
I think it's a high school drama, so.
Well,
Yeah.
But I don't know what her character is like in it, so it doesn't say much.
Well, that's still a from me from her having a companion that young. It's been a while.
Oh yeah.
It's been a long while.
Mm-hmm. Which might be more evidence that she's only for the 60th and not actually longer than that, because we really don't know. We've only seen her with David Tennant so far. Like, we don't know one way or the other at this point, to be honest.
Yeah. Come to think of it, was Heartstopper the show that Shooty Gatwa was on as well? Or was
that was Sex Education. I mean, they might have been on multiple shows, so
I guess it threw me off because they're both like high school set, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay. This is probably a bad idea considering how slow my internet's been today, but oh yeah, he has definitely not been on Heartstopper. Okay. In fact, it looks like he did Sex Education and hasn't done anything since, so I'm guessing he's been preparing for Doctor Who.
Did you look
Actually, no.
into
He's done the Barbie movie, but that's in post-production, so maybe that did take some time in the middle of the film.
Did you look further into the article here, by the way?
I saw some filler.
Apparently there's a rumor that this
I ignored the rumors.
Finny Rose character might be Donna's daughter.
Yeah, we've talked about that a few times, I'm pretty sure.
I don't recall it.
Yeah.
Then again, it's been a while since we've been in the loop.
Yeah.
And the set photos showed her in the same scene as Donna and Wilf, but we haven't heard any confirmation one way or another.
Right. It was more like people speculating whether the character will be or not.
Yeah. So I mean, people have been saying it's definitely possible because I think Finney is mixed race and Donna's husband is a black man, I'm pretty sure. So it would make sense. But we haven't seen any confirmation unless you count being in the same scene together as confirmation. So.
Which is about the only evidence we have so far.
Right.
In which case, I still would argue, why are these characters all hanging around with a 15-year-old out of nowhere? Otherwise,
I mean, the Doctor always does sketchy shit.
I wish he would stop.
I feel like... I actually also feel like that was speculation because that would be how the name would make sense. Like, even though she wouldn't remember Rose necessarily.
Right, like
It would be a
subconsciously.
matter of, yeah, subconsciously she would have named her daughter that sort of a thing.
All right, our next bit of news is that a new costume designer for Doctor Who has been revealed. Pam Down, who designed costumes for Mr. Malcolm's List, The Trial of Christine Keeler, and the second series of The Spanish Princess. I'm guessing none of us are familiar with any of those.
Nope.
No.
Recently updated her online CV to include Doctor Who, the new series produced by RTD. In a 2020 interview, Down had expressed an interest in working in science fiction in the future, so it seems like she got her wish. Just based on those titles, it looks like she's familiar with modern day and either historical or fantasy work, which is usually kind of similar costumes, historical and fantasy.
Apparently, her breakout was Oscar-winning design for a historical piece.
Oh, she has an Oscar?
Donnie began her costume design career as an assistant to Oscar-winning costume designer Sandy Powell.
Oh, okay, yeah, she was an assistant to an Oscar.
She was an assistant to an Oscar winner.
Right,
yes.
Okay.
So she does have some clout.
Right. So so at least we know she was trained by someone who knew their craft. I mean, probably trained before that, but worked with, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Worked alongside someone who definitely has some major pull.
So curious to see if her past experience translates to science fiction. I'm guessing if that's something she's interested in, that she's also studied it.
A bit,
so
probably.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or it's just generally like a sci-fi fan.
Right.
And would have ideas.
In other words, not a Chibnall.
Although it's funny because someone who has a lot of work in historical stuff would have been handy.
True.
By the way, Chibnall, you wouldn't be our punching bag if you would actually give us news about your episode, because then we would be talking about that news instead of talking shit. So give us news.
I'd still talk mad shit anyways. Chibnall, you're a goit.
I mean, honestly, I feel like at this point he could probably be like, I'm on my way out. People give more of a shit about the fact that RTD's coming back, so I'll just like...
And that's the thing, like... Some people forgot the centenary special is happening because everything we see is about the 60th.
Yeah.
I haven't forgotten.
Which, I guess is the difference between Chibnall, who doesn't say much, and RTD, who says probably not too much, but is like
definitely letting stuff out when he wants
talking
to.
About it.
Yeah.
And the fact that there were some scenes with RTD that they literally couldn't keep the public out of because it was in the middle of a city. I mean, yeah. All right, moving on to our next bit of news. We previously covered the announcement of Doctor Who Am I, the upcoming documentary focusing on the 1996 TV movie. This week, distribution details for the documentary were announced. Kaleidoscope Film Production, or Distribution, announced that the UK theatrical run will begin on the 13th of October, followed by home release on the 7th of November. Along with this announcement came a new trailer focusing on the story of writer Matthew Jacobs. And there is no news yet of the alleged international sales, which are likely under different distributors. Did either of you watch the new trailer?
I did.
No, I did not.
The trailer, legitimately, towards the end, was starting to give me the feels.
Okay.
Basically, this poor guy, he wrote the TV movie, as we usually dubbed it over here.
Right.
He has been accosted by so many people for so long, and he's literally just trying to say, hey, I still enjoy the fandom, I'm still part of it technically, and yes, I wrote the first 8th Doctor story, and yeah, it's not perfect, but I'm still here, and I'm still enjoying it. Can I please? Very nervously going to a convention for the first time, essentially.
Yeah.
And
because
I don't know if it
he's
was
very
him or
nervous
if it was
because he's had
somebody
a
he was talking to who mentioned like being punched by a
yeah.
fan
It
because of
was
the kissing scene.
yeah. He was yeah because he's been very nervous about going to conventions because he's been physically accosted by people before
Hmm.
for literally that one
And
piece of
which
work.
that actually relates to something. So Miles, who was one of our co-hosts for a short time, recently mentioned that like one of the reasons he stays away from the fandom at large is like people were like throwing, flipping his shit and like denigrating him as a person because he doesn't have it in him to get all that pissed off over the the time. What the fuck was the episode name? The Timeless Child or
Thomas
whatever.
Sheldon, yeah.
Yeah, it's like regardless of what you think of the writing decision, it's still a harm. It's harmless in the real world, and is just a decision you disliked in a TV show.
Mm.
So that really applies to what they were talking about in this trailer, where it's like, yeah, if you're going to be harassing and attacking and I'm guessing, knowing sci-fi fans, probably sending death threats to someone because
Mm.
you didn't like a line in the script, or you didn't like the doctor kissing the companion. You really need to grow up.
Yeah. Like, and the thing is like, were those even calls that the writer made? Because stuff like that to me could easily be, here's a bunch of things I want, go.
Yeah,
Like,
True.
make this
it
happen,
very well
go.
could be something that was suggested to be added to the, even if it wasn't his original idea.
True, yeah,
Yeah.
the director could have decided to,
Yeah.
or the actors, but
Yeah.
even if it was 100% the writer's call, that doesn't
Mm.
give anyone the justification
Right.
to like persecute him for the rest of his life.
Right.
Right, and then
Like,
which also then brings us back to this trailer because it does look like he's finally getting a much warmer reception nowadays.
mhm,
And
right.
he's at first seems to not be getting a lot of attention until he starts opening up a bit more about what he's
Mhm.
done and how he's attached to the show.
Mm.
Not only because not only is he apparently the writer for that episode for that story, but also apparently his father was in the Gunslingers.
Yep.
Oh,
Which
wow.
Mm-hmm.
that's just a string of bad luck for that family, I think.
Just because we absolutely detest that damnable song.
Right.
Mm.
And I will say, even if there are some qualms I have about his story, it was his first attempt, and as far as I'm aware, he was relatively new to Doctor Who at the time.
Mhm.
And I can't hold that against him. I will say,
I mean,
though...
yeah, from the
this-
trailer, it sounds like he was a fan, but it was the first script he wrote for Doctor Who.
Right.
So
I will say that
Yeah.
even while he did get some obvious details wrong, I will say, though, he apparently got the Doctor in one go.
Mm.
Because if Paul McGann isn't instantly the Doctor that you want out of him by the end of that story, I don't know what's wrong with you. And Paul McGann has
also,
been playing it perfectly ever since, as far as I'm aware.
And
Yep.
also, the movie was trying to sell Doctor Who to the United States, which was a bad idea. It's a British
hard
show,
sell because
maybe
not a lot of
just-
people knew. Yeah,
Yeah, they like tweaked it to try and make it more American, and clearly that did not work. Just keep it British. That's it'll live and die on being British. Just keep it that way. It does not work when you try to make British stuff American.
so ultimately, I think this was a much more effective trailer than the one I think that the film crew had put out. This one actually, it gives a human element. It kind of tells at least there may
tells
be
at least in
multiple
brief what
stories, but it tells us a
main-
story that this is following.
Yeah, it does tell at least in brief that there's a main story that we're following here, and this
Right.
guy's very sudden, breath-holding deep dive into possibly being part of the fandom again.
Right. Although I'm pretty sure all 3 stars of the movie are also in this documentary. So I'm very curious what they're going to bring to it as well.
I did see, yeah, I did definitely see tidbits with Paul, and he seemed to be enjoying being there. So,
Yeah.
All right, that brings us to our last piece of news. Released from Big Finish on September 7th. The Fifth Doctor Adventures 42, The Auton Infinity, written by Tim Foley and starring Peter Davison, Janet Fielding, Mark Strickson, and John Colshaw. Interestingly enough, Colshaw appears to be playing the Brigadier, but there's a picture of Anthony Ainley's master on the cover. And I don't know if there's nobody listed as anything that I could recognize as the master in the cast list. But that might just be intentionally deceptive, promotion.
Yeah,
it's not like that's a new thing with the master, but it's usually an anagram that you can recognize. Although now that I realize sometimes the anagram is like something that looks like Tony Ainley or something like that. So maybe I just need to look more deeply. All right, and then that brings us to the summary. This is probably going to be a short one because I was, especially in the beginning, having trouble. Like they were switching from scene to scene so quickly. But I will do my best.
Alrighty.
Just give me a countdown.
All right. Starting in 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, it starts with Charlie and Kariz in Kariz's bedroom, with Charlie looking at a bunch of his stuff. Charlie goes to look at one thing that is called the Absolver, and Kariz says, no, don't open it. But Charlie wants to see what the blue glow inside is, and she does. Next thing you know, the TARDIS is going haywire, and Charlie goes to the doctor, and they don't know what's going on, and then Kariz is missing somewhere in the TARDIS, and then the TARDIS starts bleeding from the console, which is new, and then Kariz is has been teleported to a place. I'm still not sure if it's inside or outside the TARDIS, because they said both.
He was never swept away to another part of the TARDIS. He was actually swept to wherever it was on that planet, because that guy is around him the entire time.
Of the TARDIS.
Yes.
So the doctor was wrong. And this is the person who has been appearing to Kariz in his dreams since at least the beginning of this story, possibly longer, I don't know. And he's going to teach Kariz psychic powers. So the doctor and Charlie end up they stumble around for a bit. They make their way to the Quinieri console room, which from the way they describe it might be the one from the TV movie, because it has, a nice chair and whatnot. But then someone's banging on the TARDIS door, and they eventually go outside and find themselves in what looks like a medieval castle, which causes Charlie to tell them that they arrived via magic. And then so the guards go and get the boss, or I think he's called the overseer. And he, basically he realizes that they are telling the truth. They're not from this planet, and they're therefore not the Outlanders who are their enemies, and therefore invites them to stay, gives them rooms and whatnot. They also meet his daughter, who is named Lolanthia, who appears to be 19, who then talks to Charlie, and gives some inclination that something is odd, that something about not having been young, and then about there having been a permanent darkness. The Doctor and Charlie managed to dig up some more information and get the reveal that there was some sort of scientific experiment that went wrong, that caused the change in how they live. Then Charlie meets with Kariz and finds out that he is psychically projecting and plans to meet them soon. They then go exploring, and I'm probably going way too deep into this for 5 minutes. And they find out more details. The actual fact is that over 1,000 years ago, there was this big thing. There was this experiment they were running, and it basically kind of trapped everyone into a state of basically turned them into me from her last episode with the 12th Doctor, where they're like neither alive nor dead, nothing new, no new births can happen, nobody can die, etc. Um, and then the Outlanders, led by Kerez, start to break into the castle. Uh, and then the doctor does a scan and finds out that a creature that they've been keeping trapped in the castle is actually the seemingly lost mother of Lilanthia, because during that experiment she got mutated, and all of the Outlanders are people who have been mutated except for uh, their leader, who is continuing to try to get Kerez to basically enact his religion, which is basically to kill everybody. Um, but then there was another piece of technology that was also, so yeah. But Kerez decides to, instead of letting everybody be hurt by that technology, to take the full force of it himself, because he's been growing in power. But that is actually going to kill him and cause his DNA to collapse. So that basically causes the end of everybody there. The Doctor and Charlie go into the TARDIS. The Doctor is just trying to move on and go, where's the next place? Which upsets Charlie, because he's not taking any time to grieve for Kerez. And the Doctor does not do a very good job explaining that, basically saying people come and people go. So Charlie decides that she wants off of the TARDIS at the next possible stop, goes to her room to pack, and the story ends.
All right. 5 minutes, 31 seconds. And the device that was going to kill everyone was essentially a gene splicing device, which was supposed to use the DNA of the people inside of the Citadel to hopefully fix the mutated people on the outside.
And I just realized I missed...
For some reason, Kerez got in the way of it and then sacrificed himself.
I forgot the whole part about, like, the people inside the Absolver dragged Kerez to this planet, and I still don't understand the connection between that.
Essentially, the souls in the Absolver were like the big tether that brought him to that world, although somehow, for some reason... what I don't understand of that is that the souls in the Absolver make it an entity into that world, and then that's how he gets tied there.
Because this world is...
how they were tied there, I don't know.
Because this world is hell or something, which they never really followed up on either.
Wank.
Okay, I tried.
It's a hellscape, but yeah, it is a bit of a hokey. That is like a bit of the hokiness, but we'll delve into that in a little while, I'm sure.
Yep. So I guess we start with what we liked, and I swear I rolled a die, but it's the exact same. I mean, there's only a few choices it can give us, but it's Alex first again.
God. I guess I just like that for as I guess for as dark as some elements of this are or whatever. Thank God this isn't as bleak as last time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I guess
it's
it's
still a pretty serious story, but yeah, at least it's not like on the level of Squick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Definitely not as and it's like it's funny, I kind of joke like in the spoilers channel, it's like, wow, seemingly everyone except for the Doctor and Charlie die, and yet somehow this is less bleak than last week's. And like the tiny bit, the pockets of humor here and there also don't feel out of place, because the tone is is not as heavy. So when there is humor, it's like, okay, this doesn't feel like really tonally out of place.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Matt.
General thing I liked overall. There's some stuff I have questions about, and I'm thinking that seeing some stuff on the in between of these two stories would help with that. So to try and focus away from stuff that
Yeah,
could have been
yeah.
answered on the in between. The general thing I really like the most about this story, at least we don't always get a decent conclusion to a companion, especially one that's only around for a short while. And this definitely seems like they at least tried to build to some sort of significant payoff with this particular companion.
Yeah, I didn't realize that Kara's stayed in as long as he did, or all the way to the end of Charlie's run. I thought I thought Absolution happened like 2 or 3 stories after Terra Firma, and then Charlie had a bunch more stories with the Eighth Doctor. But it's actually basically like he has 15 stories altogether, half of them in the Divergent Universe, half of them not. And then like Charlie does leave after, in the very next story. So he's basically there for half of Charlie's run, I think, if not more.
So he's
Oh,
there
wow.
for half of that companion's run, and he's also the reason why that companion decides to leave.
Yeah.
Fair enough. That's also something that kind of hints to some other things that have happened before in Doctor Who. To be fair, some companions that left during the Fifth Doctor era in particular.
Right.
But yeah, so that's the general good thing about that. It's a very nice end cap for this character, and apparently quickly building up to another end cap.
So that leads to what did I like, and I guess the idea of a civilization that like basically so fucked themselves over with science that they turned around and they're like, okay, we're going back to the Dark Ages, and that's how we're going to live for the next 2,000 years. Like that, that's really interesting, and it's I'm not we it's possible we've seen something like that before, but I thought that aspect of this was pretty well done. It was, it
I,
kind of it kind of made it really confusing in the beginning, but in a good way. And then when they explained it, you're like, okay, I absolutely get it, and that's why there's the barrier, even though they're low tech and everything else. And I like the execution of that.
Actually, I will say that I have seen another story like this, and execution in the end turned out terrible and disappointing. That particular story was called The Village.
Oh, so not Doctor Who, you're talking Shyamalan.
Shyamalan Ding Dong, yes.
Yep.
Yes, Shyamalan did this story before and sucked. So, big claps for you, Big Finish. You actually did the story and did it well.
The reveal didn't happen by a car driving by, which I'm pretty sure is what happened in The Village.
The reveal didn't happen with the character literally being blind and not sure what's going on, whereas you're basically told flat out, yeah, everything that you've experienced is a complete total lie, and nobody knew it except for these assholes who didn't want their families to know about it. It's like, the fuck?
Although I guess putting it that way,
the big interesting big bad haunted monster thingy of the story ends up being a complete total fake too.
Right.
Whereas in this story, it's Doctor Who, and we're like, yeah, everything is actually a real threat.
I guess putting it that way, you could almost say Monty Python and the Holy Grail did the same thing, but that was more of a fourth wall break than a twist.
Yeah.
When they had the cops show up at the end and arrest them all.
Well, actually, the ending was a joke. It's a literal cop out.
Yeah, true. All right. On to what we disliked, and I'll go with Alex.
It's funny because there's some things that like I can't hold against it because the problem is more that we skipped from Creed of the Chromon to this. So I'm thinking like,
we
wow,
skipped 14 stories in that way, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like there's probably some build up for this Karis stuff.
I know that there's build up in the sense that basically like his religion is Rassilon's fault, and it's basically that they believe that like they basically believe that all people must die and that dying is salvation, which I looked up some of that because that was part of the ending of this and that was part of the confusing bits. So yeah, if we had listened to the whole thing in order, linearly, that's what I was trying to say. I was about to say literally, and I knew that was the wrong word.
No.
If we listened to it linearly, we would have known that part.
So I guess just going on what we've got. I don't know. I guess.
I could have done a Game of Thrones opening.
Valor
Morghulis.
Well, yeah, I was almost also thinking of as well of the quote that came into my head when listening to this was the Ninth Doctor: "Everything has its time, and everything must die."
You being you, I thought it was gonna be God damn it! Why am I bad with words today? From Batman, the person we've talked about many times. Zaz.
Oh God, let's see. Is there something I've got? It's funny because it's like I do have, like, I feel like there are bits, but I'm just thinking, is that an overall aspect or is that just a scene? Is the problem I have with some of these where it's like, is it?
If you don't have anything you're sure about, I can always go, and maybe you can think of something in the meantime.
Yeah, we'll do. I'll just skip for now.
Well, I'll go with mine then, which is definitely one that I have a qualm, and I don't think it's ever explained before this, at least as far as I'm aware. It seems to surprise everyone else too. Is that okay? We open up this spiritual thing. Somehow it's tied to this particular planet, makes a big spiritual apparition monster thingy that only the main character who brought this item around can control. And somehow that when he gets touched by a teleportation thing, that immediately brings him to that planet as well. How is this all tied like this? Well, this makes absolutely no logical sense.
Yeah, there's a lot of hand waviness to how this. Actually, no, it's literally a wizard did it. It's all about, oh yeah, he used a psychic force of some sort that fucked up the TARDIS and took Kariz out.
Yeah. Which is mainly underwhelming when you find out that it was just like someone who got fucked over by a botched science experiment and not like some like celestial toy maker or
still
that
it
kind
still
of
doesn't
thing
make sense that this guy, even if he has some sort of
someone who got fucked up, he's the one who fucked it up.
Right.
How did it give him psychic powers?
Yeah.
Even if he does have psychic powers, it still doesn't explain how he managed to pin everything and know everything that he was gonna pin to make his things happen. It's still quite the stretch. And I think like the story needs to take a few more exercise moves here before it stretches that hard.
Yeah.
Like, I will latch on to this in that, like, I legitimately thought that it was going to turn out that, like, the uber religious guy, whose name is bloody escaping me right now.
Like the leader, Cacophis, I think is how you pronounce it.
Like, I was expecting him and the other guy to turn out to be like these sort of elder gods who had taken mortal forms kind of shit. Like, they were going to be this, like...
That would have made it more interesting, and that would explain how they have such a huge amount of power to do what they did.
Yeah.
Instead of just two scientists who happen to have slept with the same woman.
Yeah. Like maybe that would still be a thing that
they weren't even sure about the other guy, but because he knew he was on the outs, he used to start pulling shit and before he left, and then screwed everything up.
By the way, this is a good time to mention. I had mentioned this in our group chat. So Aberish is played by Robert Glenister, who played Salatine in the Caves of Androzani and Thomas Edison in Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror. And Cacothis is played by Christopher Villiers or Villiers. I'm not sure what the nationality is and how to pronounce it. But he played Hugh in The King's Demons and Professor Morehouse in Mummy on the Orient Express. So they just both so happened to have been both in classic Who and modern Who.
And they also landed roles together in this story for Big Finish.
And both of those modern Who stories were filmed after this, so it wasn't intentional.
It's still an interesting head scratch.
Yeah.
And they're far enough apart that, it wasn't obviously on purpose that they got into New Who, but still interesting.
Other than that they both wanted to keep acting. Anything else on that?
Yeah, it is just funny because I did almost think, like, if this was like a reveal of like, well, this whole time they'd actually been these entities beyond mortal comprehension kind of a thing, would have made a bit more sense that this guy was able to pull this shit, that he wasn't actually like immortal this whole time and he'd just gone back to, his normal shtick.
Right.
Just being... No, he's just some scientist who kind of lucked into these powers. It's like...
Yeah,
what?
It's a bit of a stretch. It's a bit of a hard stretch.
Even for Doctor Who, that's a stretch. Like, they usually just go, fuck it, forces beyond mortal comprehension.
Yeah, usually Doctor Who would try to go for a little more build-up on something like these before they leap full in.
It could have worked if they were like, oh yeah, the Outlanders like pooled their mental energy to boost his. That you could kind of believe, but that actually segues right into what I'm going to say, and that is, I wish the pace was slowed down a bit. Specifically, I wish we saw more of the other side of the barrier, because we see like these really fast bits of conversation between Kariz and Aberush, and they're all so fast that we have no idea what's going on. We're getting whiplash because we're getting 10 seconds with Charlie, and then 10 seconds with Kariz, and then 10 seconds with the doctor, and making you dizzy. And meanwhile, like, there's so little, we see so little of the whole world outside the barrier. And if, I wish we had seen more of, like, what the Outlanders are, and, like, it wasn't more just Aberush.
Yeah.
Like, even if they had kind of, they could have used that also to foreshadow the fact that these are actually people and not just monsters, which is how the story kind of treats them.
Until that final act, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Okay, favorite scenes, starting with Alex.
Ooh. Let's see if I can remember. Oh. You know what? It's the obvious choice. But Charlie laying into the doctor pretty much at the end. Yeah, because it's like, hey, yeah, that's, especially given some of the shit she's been through, and, God knows what happened in between. While she doesn't remember what happened in Creed of the Chrome, thank God. I mean, maybe she does get a memory.
She remembers a lot of stories that are pretty bad.
Yeah. It's very like Tegan and Victoria territory for the shit she's been through, and I have been made aware by a Twitter thread that I wish I hadn't read because it kind of spoiled some shit that apparently just the Eighth Doctor has kind of a shitty track record with his companions. So it's like, oh yeah, well,
yeah, it does seem that the Eighth Doctor has a bit of a hard time with.
Were you with us when we reviewed Terra Firma?
I don't think so.
Oh,
no. I think my first one was Chimes of Midnight.
The Well, your first one was our very first story in 2012, but
Oh no, I
in
mean
terms of
like
coming
first
back,
first
yeah.
big finish. First big finish, I mean.
Because the big twist at the end of that one, oh, that's right. You weren't willing to do audio dramas at the time. I forgot.
Until very
Yeah.
recently, yes.
But the big twist at the end of that one was that the Doctor's first two companions were killed by Davros, and then Davros hypnotized the Doctor to forget they existed. Not like the Eighth Doctor's first, not the Doctor's first.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, generally it's nice to have like
Yeah, this doctor definitely has issues trying to understand the human level at some points, especially when they become very emotionally disturbed.
Mm-hmm.
He's very much not a 10th Doctor
yeah.
with his companions.
Yeah, he's not as huggy-feely.
Mm.
He does try to do his best as any good doctor will, but he does have his issues. So is that it, Alex?
Yeah.
All right. So general favorite scene.
Yep.
So what's into this mirror here? It's interesting that it's here, and it's interesting that it's full length. But there seems something odd about it. Oh, look at all the fingerprints. That's a clue too. And chair to the mirror. Doctor, 7 years bad luck. Ah, good thing being 900 years old means that it's only a blink of an eye.
Right. Yeah, that was a fun scene. All right, so I think for mine, I'm going to go with the first scene with Lelanthia, where she's trying not to hint at what's going on, but she kind of is because she hasn't spoken to a stranger in so many years. Where she is like, I haven't been young in a long time. What? Oh, I mean, I sometimes feel older than I look. Like, okay, so something's going on, and yeah, you're telling us whether you want to or not. Apparently,
Gets 5,000 miles to the soul. What, Gallon?
Speaking of which, I was glad I was able to find something for the title card of that actor, in around the age of 20, because apparently that's around the time she started acting.
Okay.
Like in terms of the age she was, the character was. Although, when did this come out? Okay, yeah. So by the time this came out, she already was over 25. So she was already playing young or playing old, depending on how you want to look at it.
She was older playing young, yeah.
Yeah. But I did find some stuff from her of about the year 2000 when she would have been like 22.
So not far off.
Or I don't know if that math checks out, but I'm not going to double check it because that's not why we're here.
Yeah.
Anywho.
Yeah. So that was
my favorite scene.
Okay. Oh no, that was my favorite scene.
No, it was your favorite scene. So
yeah.
Least favorite.
So now we go on to least favorite scenes, right?
And it's funny because I was kind of tempted to just go with the same scene again, but from a different perspective of why some of it bugs the shit out of me. But instead, I was reminded of something that kind of like it didn't click as much first time as like, wow, yeah, that kind of negates this making any real sense beyond it being really petty, of the bit where it's basically revealed that Abaresh has only been doing this because of the because of that woman, and that's it. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, they even say it's like, wait, this whole thing has been over a woman? Like, what? You achieved godlike powers just to get back at this one dude, and you fucked over this entire planet just because you were fired from a job because you slept with a guy's wife.
Right.
Like, what? And it's so underwhelming. Now, like, using it as an excuse, because it's weird, because they kind of even do it kind of mixed, because he's also like, um, you know, he tries to be like, oh, my genius wouldn't be appreciated, rather than I was banging this guy's wife, so I
Right.
knew they were gonna fire me. So I'm like, so was he just like evil the whole time? Like, what?
And it's what's even worse about that is the woman that the entire plot seems to revolve around doesn't have a voice. She can't speak because
Right.
she's been of her mutation.
Yeah, she's
So
literally a
she's
plot device.
right. And like I think the only thing she does of her own agency is I think she doesn't she sacrifice herself to kill him or something like that.
Yeah.
I was about to get
Yeah.
to that.
Oh, was that your scene?
Yeah. So let me immediately then jump into my scene. So bad
Yeah.
it's good. Hi, yes, I'm a dirtbag. I have gained godlike abilities because I may or may not have slept with a man's wife, and she's now turned into a monster, and I still want to get it on with her, but the hell with that. I also want petty revenge against the guy who fired me, because my big brain, don't worry, sweetie, I'll take care of everything. Oh, God, why is she pecking my eyes out? Oh, shoomp. Both of them into the air exhaust. Bye-bye. He dies.
Yeah.
He lived a total load.
Which is also like, wait, so he has this godlike power. Haha, I can levitate. Uh-oh, someone pushed me.
Uh-oh, someone who can kind of fly pushed me, and now we're both getting sucked in. Bye.
Yeah.
Godlike power, itty bitty bitty mind space.
So I think I'm going to go with the scene where Kara's like reverts back from like God Kara's to normal Kara's because it doesn't make like on one moment he was like I am a god, I will kill everyone, and then of my own free will I will sacrifice myself, and then suddenly my brain is completely normal. None of that has ever happened, even though there's no reason for my brain to have changed in any way. And I'm going to talk completely normal because even though 5 minutes ago I was saying the doctor didn't teach me anything, now I'm saying that the doctor taught me things because character consistency is meaningless.
It was a very knee-jerk scene. As much as I liked it, it was also very knee-jerky.
Yeah.
I basically just ignored what the first half was and just went with the
Right.
Frankenstein.
Yeah. It's a thing of like it's well acted, but also like, wait, why would he revert back to
when you
normal?
combine it with the first half of that, yeah, it turns real hokey.
And that's another like I mentioned of slowing down the pace. And for the record, as I mentioned this before we started streaming. This story is 20 minutes shorter than the one we covered last week, even though they're both 4 parts. But yeah, if they had slowed it down and he was like, "Oh, my mind was being affected by the fact that I had a link to all of these Outlanders and it was going both ways," or something like that, it would at least kind of explain it.
Yeah.
But they didn't even try. They were just like, "Oh, nope, that's it."
Yeah, especially because it means he flipped back and forth very easily because he kind of goes from like 0 to 60, like just talking to Abarash and being like, "Oh, I guess this is just a thing I've got to do now." Okay.
Right.
And the flashlight makes him go immediately from 60 to 0 in a heartbeat. No, you were right. I was wrong. Totally my bads. Bye.
It's like, oh no, see, I will protect you within me, sort of. So like, you'll become a part of me or something, and then suddenly that changes too. Like, it would have made more sense.
By inevitable death.
Yeah, it would have made a lot more sense if like he was constantly, and it's very cliche, but if he had done the constant like back and forth, the real Karis is trying to push through the personality that's like dominating right now, sort of a thing. So it's like, oh no, yeah, this is because I'm being influenced, and now I'm breaking through the influence, and I had this moment of clarity that let me save you.
Yeah. All
Like,
right.
it's cliche, but it's like, you know.
Yep.
Sometimes the cliche is a cliche for a reason because it's a
Yeah.
little bit
Right.
better than the alternatives.
All right. Final thoughts.
Um, it's kind of funny because this is one that, like, I like it well enough. But it's just kind of like there. This kind of feels like how I felt the first time I watched Earthshock, where I was just kind of like, even with that, I remember like joking about how Adric's death felt very womp womp kind of a moment with his final line. And this is just kind of okay. I feel like even if I knew Karis more, this still would have been like, well, I kind of felt like he was doomed to die anyway, just from Creed of the Crowman. So it's like, yeah, no real surprise there. This guy wasn't gonna last.
The lizard man who lived, come to die.
I mean, surprised he lasted as long as he did, but yeah, just very like, yeah, if someone's leaving, it's him. I will say, I guess to elaborate further on what my favorite scene was, I just generally what really sells this whole thing for me is the ending with Charlie being like, "Fuck you, fuck this, I'm out." Like of the whole like the Doctor being very and like because I like that essentially this it to me is what the Fifth Doctor era fucked up. Because they have a moment of silence and then, hey, let's go to this place to have fun and get over it.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
that is where
no,
the Fifth Doctor messed up.
no,
Instead of immediately
like,
me jerking to, let's just go on to another venture. What? No.
Right.
Yeah, and the other two just kind of go along with it. Neither of them are like, oh god, what? Like, it's just, it's just so annoying that they just like seemingly get over it very quickly. And this is just her like, no, this happened. He's been with us for a while. Like, how can you feel nothing, seemingly, or at least show that nothing? And it's like she just calls him on it, and it's like, yes, thank you.
And the Doctor does need to occasionally get called on it, and usually the Doctor can only explain it a lot better than 8 was doing right here.
Yeah, like, honestly, it made me realize that I kind of want something like that. If we're ever going to have another companion die, I want there to be a moment like this that ends basically the same way to a point, in that a companion dies, but the other one's kind of like, has this happened before? Yes, I'm out. Like, you know, I don't want to, like, sort of, has this happened before? Yes. How often? Not that often, but it's happened. God knows in New Who it happens all the fucking time, but, you know.
Yeah, I would much prefer a, definitely something similar to what you're saying, like, that the companion dies, the other companions are horrified, the Doctor's just kind of quietly trying to move on to something hopefully happier, and they're like, you're acting really weird. Has this happened before? And he'll have to admit to them, yes, it doesn't happen all the time, but it sadly is something that does happen, and it's best in his mindset to just move on than to linger.
The Doctor tries to repress it.
Yeah. The Doctor tends to be of a hurt mindset where he just tries to repress it and move on with life because it's better for him, at least, in the long run. Even though he's not going to forget them or anything, but he doesn't want to linger on the bad parts. Is very much a Doctor mindset on losing companions like that. And obviously not all companions are going to agree with that.
Yeah.
And they'll either have to force him to either take a break and just do something to let them vent it, or they will definitely have the opinion that if that's the way this is going to keep going, then we need to get off.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I guess I would still say people should give this a listen, but yeah, I feel like this is very middle of the road with a very strong final scene.
Okay.
So up to
Matt?
me. All right.
Yep.
As I expressed before, I've seen similar stories to this. I've definitely seen them done a lot worse. That being said, there are some qualms to be had. I think some of them might, which I've managed to avoid for the most part, might be ones that are more tied to stuff that we haven't seen that comes in the in between of stories. But I can't say for sure until we go back and watch or listen rather to all those stories. I just pointed out in particular some of the ones that had me completely going, "What the hell?" and how the story doesn't do a very good job of making you understand or clarifying properly what's going on here.
Mm.
That being said, I will say it is still very well acted. Um, the the explanations are not very well written, and matter of fact, one of the big explanations is kind of what the hell. But the conclusions, I will say, especially by the end of the final act, are pretty interesting conclusions, and it will make the next story interesting whenever we visit that particular story. And that's basically my thoughts on it.
Now I got. Did we do that story? I think we might have.
Did we? I don't recall.
Because I know I've listened to it, but it might have been on my own. But I thought it was part of a review. Yes, we did,
Oh,
and you gave it a 3.5.
oof.
It was. Oh, it was in 2018, so 4 years ago now.
Yeesh. It's been a while.
Right. All right. So for my final thoughts is the broad strokes of this story are decent. Like if you just gave me the elevator pitch, I would be like, okay, yeah, it sounds like a pretty good story. And then as I listen to it as you get into the details, all the details I went into while I was trying to give the summary, you realize actually this could have used some more cooking. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't fit together. Like they
Mm-hmm.
had a whole bunch of ideas and didn't quite know which ones to go with. So I definitely think this could have used some editorial oversight to be like, trim that, cut that, make a change to that.
Extend this
Um,
idea because it needs to help be explained better.
right. But
Mm.
other than like it's the broad strokes are decent. So
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of torn between an okay inner story with a lot of frayed edges. And that makes it really difficult to like overall because you're just kind of left here kind of holding the bag like what the fuck is that and that and that.
Mm.
Um so like there's there's times I think the positive scenes are definitely more enjoyable than like Creed of the Crowman. But
Mm.
it's very easy to find scenes where you're just, like least favorite scenes or least favorite aspect of the episode. I was like, okay, which one am I going to pick? And then when we were like favorite scene and favorite aspect, I was like, well, maybe that one. I don't know. And that's never a good indicator when there's more negative things you want to say than positive things.
Mm.
All right, so moving to ratings, starting with Alex.
See, this is hard because I almost want to give it higher than Creed of the Coromon, but the more I think about it, they're flawed in different ways to the point that
Mhm.
I'm willing to put them on par with each other, so I'm giving this a 3.5 as well.
3.5. Okay, Matt.
I hold the right to possibly change my opinion later if I hear anything in the subsequent stories that actually helps this one. But in the meantime, I will have to say I do agree that this is a 3.5.
Okay.
It tries. It's very close.
Hmm. And I'm I feel like this fails on too much of a technical level of just plotting and basic plotting to give it the same score as Creed of the Kramen, which was all right. It just wasn't as enjoyable. So I think for this, the highest I can give it is a 3.0.
Oof.
Yeah, that's fair. For me, it's a matter of both what saved
Mm-hmm.
Creed and this from being lower is basically just the acting.
Gotcha.
Pretty much. That's definitely one of the saving
Mhm.
graces right now. Is this
Yeah, and
particular
if it
group.
weren't for the acting, this probably would have been been in the
Oh,
two
if it
point
wasn't for the
something for
acting,
me.
this would probably be like at least a 3, if not
And
2.5 for
by
me.
the way, I still feel the actor who played the guy in I closed the thing with the names. But I still half the time I was like, is that Peter Davison deepening his voice? But it wasn't. Just a random thing there. So our
Hmm.
average is 3.33. And let's see where that brings us. All right, so 3.33 is about 310 in our rankings. It is on par with Big Finish, Destiny of the Doctor, Vengeance of the Stones.
Hmm.
It is not as good as Blue Forgotten Planet, which was Charlie's final episode, at least with the Sixth Doctor, and Destiny of the Doctor, Night of the Whisper. And it is better than Companion Chronicles, The Mahogany Murders, and
Mahogany.
First Doctor Adventures, The Destination Wars. So where did I say? So that was 310 out of 420 as of the last time we updated the rankings. And that is it for that. Please let us know in the comments what you thought of this week's story. If you've listened to it, let us know if you want to hear more Kariz stories as well. Since we've kind of done the beginning, middle, and end, but nothing in between of his. Don't forget to like the video since you've listened this far. And subscribe on YouTube to get our exports every week, or follow us on Twitch to get notified when we stream. Next time, we move on to some more Sarah Jane Smith with Lost in Time, written by Rupert Light, and starring Elizabeth Sladen as Sarah Jane Smith, Daniel Anthony as Clyde Langer, and Anjali Mohindra as Ronnie Chandra. See you then.
See y'all later.